The worst part wasn't that they used the wrong name. It was that I didn't feel the urge to fix them. But that came later. Long before Ashley ever existed, before the fractures and revelations and quiet panic, there was just me, Alex. And the moment everything tilted started at a party. Megan's 18th birthday. Her parents' basement had been transformed into the standard teenage celebration bunker. Cardboard boxes stacked with greasy pizza slices, 2 liters of soda sweating onto folding tables, and that peculiar charged atmosphere that exists only when everyone in the room is technically old enough to be an adult but no one knows how to act like one yet. Music thumped from a lone Bluetooth speaker, vibrating through the floorboards and into my bones. I wasn't built for parties. Never had been. I preferred hovering at the edges, sipping the same beer for hours, watching conversations swirl without needing to join them. Megan, unfortunately, thrived on participation. She believed fun should be mandatory. She killed the music mid-song. "Alright everyone, pause. We're doing something," she announced, already grinning. The collective groan barely slowed her momentum. She held up a battered baseball cap and shook it, paper slips rattling inside. "You all know next weekend is my costume party. Final event of birthday week. Theme's Wedding Crashers." She waited for the murmurs to settle. "Everyone comes dressed like a wedding guest. Except 2 people." She paused for dramatic effect. "I've written bride on one slip and groom on another. Whoever pulls them is our couple. No backing out. No half-effort." Laughter rippled through the room, edged with nerves. The hat began its slow, inevitable journey around the circle. My pulse ticked up. This was exactly the kind of attention I'd spent my entire life learning how to avoid. Not me. Anyone but me. Slips were drawn. Roles announced. Drunk uncle. Overly emotional cousin. A 6'4" linebacker proudly revealed flower girl, sending the room into hysterics. Then the hat landed in front of me. "Come on, Alex," Megan teased. "Don't stall." I reached in, fingers brushing against folded paper, and pulled one free. It took a second to register the words staring back at me. Bride. For a heartbeat, my brain refused to translate it. Then heat surged up my neck, flooding my face. Laughter exploded around me as realizations spread. "No way," someone yelled. "Alex is the bride." Megan clapped like she'd won the lottery. "This is perfect." He scanned the circle. "Okay, who's marrying him?" Across the room, Jason raised his slip, groom, with a crooked, surprised smile. Of course it was Jason. He was effortlessly good-looking in that unfair, casual way. Athletic, friendly, the kind of guy teachers trusted and classmates liked without resentment. When he looked at me, amused rather than mocking, my stomach did something strange and traitorous. The rest of the night blurred into photos and jokes. Jason threw an arm around my shoulders for pictures, treating it like nothing more than a harmless bit. He didn't push, didn't sneer. Just played along. I thought that would be the end of it. Megan disagreed. "You know," she said later, eyes gleaming with fresh chaos, "a wedding doesn't just happen overnight." My chest tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means preparation," she said brightly. "A whole week. Alex has to get ready to be the bride." The room roared with approval. I panicked. My mom would never allow that. It was the weakest defense I could have chosen, and Megan smelled blood immediately. "Oh, let's check." Before I could react, she had my mom on speaker. She explained everything in the most generous framing possible, calling it creative, theatrical, educational. I waited for the firm no. "The lifeline," said my mom. Paused thoughtfully. "Well," she said, "that does sound like a challenge." My hope flickered. "Method acting really," she continued. "But I have one rule." The room went silent. "If you're doing this, Alex, you do it seriously. No jokes. No mockery. Women aren't costumes." I could hear the smile in her voice. "I'll help." Cheers erupted. My doom was sealed. Jason gave me a sympathetic grin, patting my shoulder. I barely noticed. That night, lying awake, the embarrassment replayed itself in cruel detail. But beneath it, something else stirred. A question I didn't want to acknowledge. If it's only a role, what would it actually feel like? That spark of curiosity terrified me more than the laughter ever had. The project, as my mom insisted on calling it, started immediately. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages from Megan. Every text packed with obnoxious bride emojis. When I wandered into the kitchen the next morning, my mom was already there, coffee in hand. Across from her sat my Aunt Linda. Linda was different. Cool in a way I'd never understand. Purple streak in her hair, bold glasses, an effortless confidence that made rooms adjust around her. She was a freelance designer, a former theater kid, and possessed encyclopedic knowledge of fashion and makeup, things I'd spent my life actively avoiding. She smiled when she saw me. "Well," she said, eyes sparkling. "Looks like we have work to do." And just like that, the week, and the crack in my reality began. Aunt Linda leaned against the counter, eyes sparkling with the kind of excitement that should have come with a warning label. "So," she said, clapping once, "I hear we're preparing a bride." I muttered something under my breath and poured cereal into a bowl, flakes clattering louder than necessary. "It's just a dumb party thing." My mom didn't even look up from her coffee. "It's an exercise in perspective," she said calmly. "And if we're doing it properly." Aunt Linda nodded solemnly. "Which means step one is obvious. Brides need names. Alex, won't cut it this week." My phone buzzed on the counter. Megan, already sending an unhinged list of suggestions. Alexandria. Bridezilla. Lady Matrimony. "No," my mom said immediately. "Something normal. Sarah maybe. Or Jessica." Linda tilted her head. "Those are fine, but," she smiled slowly, "they don't sparkle." "What about Ashley?" The name landed softly, like it had always been waiting there. Ashley. It didn't feel like a joke. It didn't feel embarrassing. It felt clean. Familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. "Yeah," I heard myself say, quieter than intended. "Ashley works." Linda beamed. "Excellent. Project Ashley has officially begun. Finish eating, we're on a schedule." The bathroom became a studio. Bright lights. White tile. Linda unpacked her makeup bag with the seriousness of someone preparing for surgery. "Clean slate," she announced. The razor came first. When I rinsed my face, the reflection startled me, less harsh, less guarded. Younger. Exposed. Then the eyebrows. I flinched with every pluck, but when she handed me the mirror, I barely recognized my expression. My eyes looked open. Softer. Like someone had turned the volume down on my face. Makeup followed. Foundation cool against my skin. Powder feather light. Mascara brushing my lashes sent a strange shiver through me. "Wait," Linda said. "Look." The person staring back wasn't Alex anymore. Not fully. But Ashley was starting to peek through. "Now," Linda said carefully, "this next part is optional, but it makes a difference." She pulled 2 silicone shapes from her bag. Heavy. Warm. Unsettlingly realistic. "Stage breast forms," she explained. "Better than stuffing. Much more natural." My throat went dry. "Do I have to?" Mom appeared in the doorway. "You don't have to," she said gently. "But if you do this, you do it respectfully." I nodded before I could talk myself out of it. Turning away from the mirror, I felt the cool adhesive on my chest, then pressure as Linda pressed the forms into place. The weight was immediate. My posture shifted without permission. She handed me a fitted t-shirt, softer than anything I owned. I pulled it on and turned back toward the mirror. The room tilted. A girl stood there. Nervous. Wide-eyed. Unmistakably feminine. I had to sit down. Linda let out a breath. "Wow." We left them on for the rest of the day. Every movement reminded me they were there. The sway, the pull, the way fabric curved instead of hung. That night, Linda handed me a bottle. "Time to remove them." I tried. They didn't budge. I pulled harder. My skin stretched. Panic bloomed hot and fast. Linda took the bottle, read the label, then went pale. "Oh no," she whispered. "What?" My voice cracked. "I grabbed the wrong adhesive." He swallowed. "This one's for long productions. It's rated for up to 10 days. 10 days. I stared down at my chest, at the shape that wasn't going anywhere. This wasn't pretend anymore. Morning hit like a truck. I woke, rolled over, and felt the weight shift. Still there. In the shower, I avoided looking down. When I came back to my room, clothes were laid out on the bed. Skinny jeans, a teal V-neck, underwear that definitely wasn't mine. "You'll need support," my mom said gently. "Trust me." The bra was a puzzle. He had to help. The underwire pressed into my ribs, straps snug on my shoulders. Confining, yes, but also grounding. Secure. And as terrifying as it was to admit, a small part of me felt right. Ashley wasn't a joke anymore. He was real. The bra changed everything. With it on, the weight on my chest stopped feeling like something attached to me and started feeling like something that belonged on me. The pressure was steady, grounding. The forms didn't shift when I moved anymore. They stayed put, convincing, almost natural. The underwear, though, that was different. The fabric was impossibly thin, barely there. It brushed against my skin with every step, making me hyper-aware of myself in a way I had never experienced. There was no buffer, no armor. Just softness and vulnerability. It made my heart race for reasons I didn't have words for. The mall was my first real test. Ashley needs options, Aunt Linda announced, already grabbing her keys. The moment we stepped into the crowd, I was certain I had made a terrible mistake. The hallway felt too open, too bright. I folded my arms instinctively, which only made the shape of my chest more obvious. Every passing glance felt like a spotlight. The women's section was overwhelming. Rows of color, flowing fabric, a faint haze of perfume in the air. Linda moved through it like she belonged there, pulling hangers from racks with decisive confidence. "You don't know how anything looks until it's on," she said, shoving an armful of clothes into my hands. The fitting room was small, curtained, and merciless. My fingers fumbled with buttons and zippers. I felt oversized and clumsy, until I pulled on a soft sweater that draped instead of hung. I turned toward the mirror. For the first time, I didn't see a guy playing dress-up. I saw a girl. Awkward, unsure, but believable. The realization made my stomach flip. Linda didn't stop there. She turned the living room into a rehearsal space. "Your balance is different now," she said, correcting my walk. "You can't stomp anymore. Lighter steps." She taught me how to sit without sprawling, how to gesture without overdoing it. Felt silly at first, like bad acting, but slowly something clicked. My body started to cooperate. Then Jason texted. I braced myself for a joke. Instead, "How's the wedding prep going?" "Megan's losing her mind over it." I stared at the screen before replying. "It's intense. My aunt is taking it very seriously." Pause. "Then, if you want a break, we could grab coffee tomorrow." My treat. My pulse spiked. Going out. Like this. Panic flared, but underneath it, curiosity stirred. The same quiet pull I'd felt in the mirror. I said yes. The next day I took my time getting ready. Mom helped with understated makeup. Nothing dramatic. I wore fitted jeans, a simple top, and a soft cardigan. When I walked into the cafe and saw Jason waiting, my stomach somersaulted. He looked up and froze. Not laughing. Not smirking. Just staring. "Wow," he said quietly, standing. "Ashley, you look really different." He said the name so naturally it sent a shiver through me. We talk like normal people. Summer. Megan's chaos. He didn't treat me like a joke or a dare. Just like me. When I dropped my wallet, our hands brushed at the same time. The contact was brief, accidental, and electric. I pulled back instinctively, heart pounding. He handed it to me slowly, his fingers lingering a moment longer than necessary. Then he noticed my hair falling into my face and gently tucked it behind my ear. The touch was light. Intimate. My breath caught. My head screamed that this wasn't real. That I was pretending. But another voice whispered something terrifying. "Then why does it feel more real than anything else?" The party arrived like a final judgment. All week, Ashley had existed safely at home, protected, practiced. But now she had to exist in front of everyone. Megan went all out. Decorations. Music. Fake invitations. Jason was the groom. I was the bride. And Aunt Linda had rented a dress. It hung on my door like a challenge. Getting ready took hours. Hair curled. Makeup layered. Lipstick with a name that made my stomach flutter. The dress was heavier than I expected. Cool satin slid over my skin as I stepped into it. The corset tightened around me, reshaping my body, pulling me into a form that felt impossible and undeniable all at once. When it was done, I stood before the mirror. The person staring back wasn't Alex. Wasn't even the Ashley I knew. She was radiant. Frightened. Beautiful. And for the first time in my life, I believed it. That thought hit me harder than fear ever had. And I knew with dizzy certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, my mom was already crying. She covered her mouth, eyes shining. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered. You're stunning." The drive to Megan's house passed in near silence. My palms were damp, my heart pounding so hard I felt it in my throat. I had braced myself for laughter, for whispers sharp enough to cut. That wasn't what happened. The moment I stepped out of the car, conversation died mid-sentence. A hush rippled through the group gathered outside. People stared openly, mouths parted, eyes wide. I caught fragments of disbelief drifting through the air. "Is that Alex?" "No way." Then I saw Jason. He stood near the doorway in a tailored black suit, looking unreal. When his gaze landed on me, he froze completely. His usual grin vanished, replaced by something raw and unguarded. Oh. Megan hit play on the speakers, and soft instrumental music floated through the yard. This was my cue. The aisle was nothing more than a concrete walkway, but it might as well have been a cathedral floor. Jason stepped toward me and held out his hand without a word. His palm was warm when I placed mine in it. "Thought. Steady, Ashley," he murmured almost reverently. I don't even know how to say it. The ceremony itself blurred together. Megan's dramatic officiating, vows typed hastily on her phone and packed with inside jokes, the exchange of ring pops instead of rings. Through all of it, Jason never released my hand. He kept glancing at me like I was something precious, something unreal. Standing there under strings of twinkling lights, I felt something shift. I wasn't pretending, I wasn't performing, I was just Ashley, standing beside her groom. Our first dance was slow and awkward and perfect. Jason guided me onto the patio, one hand resting at my waist, the other holding mine. I noticed everything. The roughness of his jacket against my arms, the warmth of his body so close, the weight of the dress moving around my legs as we swayed. He leaned close. "You okay?" he whispered. "This has to be overwhelming." I looked up at him and realized, to my own surprise, that I meant it when I answered. "I'm okay." "Really?" His smile softened. "Good. Because this kind of feels real." My heart stuttered. He felt it too. Whatever strange, impossible thing we'd stepped into, it wasn't one-sided. The shame I'd carried for days evaporated. The embarrassment vanished. What replaced it was something vast and nameless, so full it stung behind my eyes. As Jason spun me gently beneath the lights, one thought echoed over and over. This is just a joke. Why does it feel like home? The night faded the way nights always do, slowly, then all at once. Music gave way to goodbyes. The yard emptied, leaving scattered cups and the faint scent of perfume in the cool air. Jason walked me back to my mom's car, still holding my hand. He didn't try to crack a joke or break the fragile quiet between us. At the door he hesitated. "Well," he said softly, "that was definitely the most unforgettable wedding I've ever been to." "Same," I said, smiling despite myself. He leaned in and kissed my cheek. Brief. "Electric. Good night, Ashley," he whispered, then turned and walked away. The ride home was peaceful. My mom didn't ask anything, just glanced at me now and then with a look that said she already knew. In my room, I closed the door and stood still, the satin of the dress whispering as I breathed. My body hummed like the night hadn't quite let go of me yet. I turned on the lamp and faced the mirror. She looked tired. Happy. Her makeup was smudged, her curls loosened, the hem of her dress scuffed from dancing. She didn't look perfect. She looked lived in. I reached back and worked the zipper down inch by inch. The dress slid from my shoulders and pooled at my feet. When the corset released, I sucked in a deep breath, lungs finally free. I stood there in white lingerie, the breast forms still resting against my chest, so familiar now that I barely registered their weight anymore. Temporary. In a few days they'd come off. The clothes would be packed away. Ashley would disappear and Alex would return. The thought filled me with dread. Going back didn't feel like relief. It felt like punishment, like being forced into something uncomfortable and wrong. A disguise I'd worn my entire life without realizing it was a disguise at all. Once I'd been terrified of being exposed. Now I was terrified of losing her. I studied my reflection again, not the outfit, not the illusion. Just the eyes. For the first time I wasn't judging. I wasn't acting. I was seeing myself. And the truth hit me, quiet, terrifying, and undeniable. Ashley wasn't the performance. Alex had been. A tear slipped down my cheek, cutting through the makeup. The game was over. The pretending was done. What came next was real, and I had no idea how to begin. The days after the party slipped by in a hazy blur, like the air itself had thickened. The excitement of the wedding night drained away, leaving behind a quiet, restless unease that followed me everywhere. Each morning the first thing I did was check the edges of the breast forms, gently pressing along the adhesive. Still firm. Still refusing to loosen. A small, stubborn thing. Yet it mirrored exactly what was happening inside me. I barely spoke. I stayed mostly in my room wrapped in Ashley's clothes, because the idea of pulling on my old ones felt wrong. Like lying to myself. I couldn't explain it, not even to myself, but I knew I wasn't ready to let go. Mom and Aunt Linda noticed, of course. The playful energy that had carried us through the wedding week was gone, replaced with concern that hung heavy in the house. The conversation I'd been avoiding finally arrived on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. The 10-day mark was close. I was sitting on my bed, mindlessly scrolling through photos from the party, frozen smiles, laughter, me in that dress, when Mom knocked softly and stepped inside. She held up a small bottle. "Linda brought this," she said gently. "Stronger adhesive remover. This should definitely work." She sat beside me, leaving just enough space to not feel overwhelming. "The game's over now, honey," she continued carefully. "You don't have to keep this up." Then softer, "Are you okay? You've been so quiet." That was it. The last thread snapped. A sob tore out of me, raw and uncontrollable. I folded in on myself as tears poured down, my whole body shaking. Mom didn't hesitate. She pulled me into her arms and held me tight, rocking me the way she had when I was small. Only this pain was deeper than scraped knees or childhood fears. This felt like my whole life cracking open. When the sobbing finally slowed to uneven breaths, I pulled back and wiped my face. "I don't want it to end," I whispered. "The party?" she asked softly. "No," I met her eyes, desperate for her to really see me. "Not the party. This being her." I gestured helplessly at myself. "I don't think this was ever a game." Her expression shifted, concern melting into something sharper, more focused. She listened as everything spilled out, how terrifying the week had been, how right it felt anyway. How the clothes, the makeup, the mirror, it was the first time I'd recognized myself. "When I was at that party," I said quietly, "when Jason held my hand, I've never been that happy before. And the thought of taking it all off, of going back." My voice broke. "I'm scared, Mom. I don't want to go back." I swallowed hard and said the truth I'd barely allowed myself to think. "When I look in the mirror now, I don't see a boy pretending. I see me, and I think me is Ashley." I waited for confusion. For disappointment. For anything. Instead, her eyes filled with tears. She reached up and tucked my hair behind my ear, a tender, familiar gesture. "Oh, Alex," she murmured, then paused, a sad little smile forming. "Ashley. My sweet girl." Hearing it out loud, hearing her mean it, felt like oxygen rushing back into my lungs. That evening Aunt Linda came over. No jokes. No playful teasing. She sat beside me, took my hand and squeezed it gently. "So," she said, "Project Ashley's going long-term, huh?" I nodded, smiling through tears. "I guess so." "I'm sorry about the glue," she said softly. Then with a small grin, "But maybe it was the best mistake I ever made." In that room with the two women who loved me most, something shifted. I wasn't pretending anymore. I was scared, uncertain, but whole. The panic that had followed me for years began to loosen its grip. This wasn't about a party. This was my life. And for the first time I felt strong enough to choose it. The weeks that followed were a mix of terror and exhilaration. Nothing was magically fixed, but a door had opened, and this time I stepped through it. Mom found a therapist who specialized in gender identity. My first session with Dr. Miller was nerve-wracking, but she made it easy. She listened. She gave names to feelings I'd carried forever. Dysphoria, euphoria. She told me I wasn't broken. I wasn't alone. With her support, I began socially transitioning. Ashley became my name everywhere. My clothes became my everyday life. We shopped again, not for costumes but for real clothes. Packing my old ones into boxes felt like burying someone I'd never truly been. Months later came the medical step. After careful discussions, I started hormone replacement therapy. The prescription, just a small bottle of blue pills, felt impossibly powerful. That first night I stood in front of the mirror, the pill resting in my palm. Fear whispered one last time. Are you sure? I looked at my reflection. He was sure. I swallowed. Changes came slowly, then all at once. Softer skin. Different emotions. Joy that felt brighter, sadness that felt deeper. And then, months in, a dull ache in my chest. Small, tender buds beneath the skin. Ew. 6 months later, the breast forms felt wrong for the first time. That night, I finally used the remover. The silicone peeled away, leaving my own small, growing breasts behind. I stood there, stunned. No costume. No illusion. Just me. I cried again, but this time from relief. A year passed. I was living fully as Ashley. Senior year. College plans. Real friendships. Some people faded away, but the ones who stayed mattered more than ever. Megan never left my side. And Jason. When I told him everything, I expected the worst. Tad, he smiled. The girl I danced with, he said. That was you. And I like her. We took it slow. Honest. Now, on a crisp autumn evening, I stood in front of the mirror once more, smoothing a simple dress, applying lip gloss with steady hands. No questions left. No war inside my head. Just me. A car horn sounded outside. I smiled at my reflection, at the girl who had finally come home, and whispered the truth that filled my entire soul.